back to another video. As you can probably tell by the description and the title of this video, today is going to be a little bit different, and we are going to talk all about tarot. Now, if you know absolutely nothing about tarot, you'll probably learn a little bit in this video, and if you know about tarot already, then this probably won't be very educational, but the intention of this video is to talk a little bit about my very new journey into tarot and sort of talk about my intentions for doing it, why I want to learn it, and of course show off some of the tarot items that I have so far. So this is the deck that I just recently bought. The art, I think, is so cool. I don't know how well you can see it. But it's called Deviant Moon Tarot. And the illustrator is Patrick Valenza. And we will go through the deck and I'll show off some more of the art. But first, I just want to talk about what got me into this and why I ended up buying a deck. So, I've been interested in learning more about tarot for a while. Truly, I knew nothing about it, and I still am learning, but I saw so many different posts, particularly on Instagram, about people who use tarot for a lot of self-care, personal development, positive affirmation type stuff, where they would post cards of the day or energies of the day that you want to embody and improve on. And I love that concept because I'm so much about practicing the art of mindfulness and positive affirmations and using all of this to further develop and grow. So I'd been thinking about tarot for a while, not knowing much about it, and finally, a few weekends ago, I was on a weekend trip and I came across this deck. And I'm not sure, I just feel like it really spoke to me. Again, because I really liked the art, and I left the store without buying it, and I thought about it for an hour or so. And finally, I just went back and I got it. So, that sort of started my journey. Very recently, like I said, it's only been a few weeks that I've been learning about tarot. But I'm really excited about it, and so I wanted to share the stuff that I have with you guys, tell you what I know, what I've learned, and maybe you're interested and maybe you're not, and that's okay. But I just thought this would be a different kind of video, and I'm excited about it. So, starting off, I guess I'll talk about the basics, right? So, everything that I've learned either through the few books I've read or the many, many YouTube videos that I've watched so far is that you want to keep your tarot cards in a box. And this is just because you want to protect your cards, right? You want to treat them well, treat them with respect, and just make sure that, they don't get lost or crumpled or what have you. So, typically people will put their cards in a box or some type of maybe silk bag or just something to sort of protect them, rather than just keeping them in this box, which you could also do. But clearly I'm really investing into this hobby, so I got myself a box at Michael's, and it's a little boring. I think I'll probably paint it or do something with it, but for now it's fine. I literally just got it. I think it was like $5. And what I read said that typically you want, if you're using a box, you want to put your cards So I should also mention, before I get too far into this, that a lot of people have this preconceived notion that tarot or tarot cards or tarot readings are scary or negative or just even dangerous, something that you don't want to get involved with. And so I wanted to prove that that was not the case. That's not how I interpreted it. But I wanted to do my due diligence and make sure that that was not the case. So everything that I looked into sort of proved that tarot is not that way. It's actually a very positive experience. So something, like I said earlier, that you use to sort of use your intuition to deal with conflicts, to learn more about yourself, to provide yourself with maybe positive affirmations or work towards goals, and all very positive things. So I think it depends on the person. I think there can be a lot of spirituality tied into tarot cards, and I think for some people there's not. But I think most people would agree that the intention is to have a very positive experience, something that benefits you or others, depending on if you're reading for yourself or for others. But not that it should be something you're afraid of, but just something that you should do with care, because you're important, the person you're reading for is important, and sort of that kind of thing. So I'm trying to learn a lot about the sort of culture and subculture and all of the greater context of tarot, and that's what I've learned so far. So I've learned not to be scared of it, to embrace it as a positive thing. And so if you're watching this video and you're a little iffy, you feel eerie about it, I'm just trying to assure you that you don't have to see it in that light. So anyways, let's get back to the box. So like I said, very basic box, just a way to keep my cards in one place. So alright, so let's open it up. Okay, so what I've also learned about tarot is that generally, not all the time, but generally, people will put some type of cloth out to rest their cards on. Now, I guess ideally you want this cloth to be silk. It goes back to sort of the traditional times, like way, way, way back, of why you use silk. It's just like a really great material. I think a lot has to do with the spirituality of it, but again, not an expert, so I'm still learning. But I picked up a cloth at Joann Fabric because Michaels didn't have cloth I wanted, and it's not silk, but I picked it up because it was really calling to me. I thought it was really pretty, and I thought it went well with the deck and the art of the deck, so that's why I picked it out. And I think as long as you have a good intention for it, then it doesn't matter if it's silk or not. But who am I to say? So in this box we have this little wrap here, this fabric wrap, and inside we have a few things. We have the deck of cards, but we also have a little bag of stones. Now you're probably thinking, this is crazy, like she just started doing this, why does she have like all of these accessories? I've actually had these stones for a while, and I tried to get into stones and crystals maybe 2 years ago. It was another thing I was really interested in that I wanted to learn more about, and I think they're really interesting, and I probably just haven't done enough research on them, but I like collecting them because I think they're really beautiful. I think they're fun to have, and for me, at the beginning, I was going through a lot of stressful times, and I was reading that you can sort of try to recenter and calm yourself by having these stones and crystals, and even if you're just physically holding them in your hands, sometimes that can really help relieve stress, relieve anxiety. So I got really interested in learning more about them and sort of took a pause on them, but I have them, and I've made a few videos with them before, but I just think they're really lovely, so I'll put them out. But anyways, the reason why I have them in this box now is because it's just a great accessory to have with your cards, either for cleansing purposes or for energy purposes, or just to have them as a general sort of atmosphere of your space. A lot of people set up very specific spaces where they'll have candles and incense and stones and their cloth and everything. So anyways, I have a lot of stones here. I probably shouldn't take them all out because I have to lay this cloth down, but here's my little baggie. It sounds pretty nice. And I keep all my stones in it. I feel like so for background, I was never raised with any kind of religion, really very limited spirituality, and I feel like generally, at this point in my life, I'm a somewhat spiritual person. I don't really know how to define it. I'm interested in all of these things that are just a little bit different because I've never really learned about them, and I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I think, like I said before, a lot of people use this in a very spiritual way. A lot of people use it in not such a spiritual way, and sometimes not at all. And I think that's totally okay, and it's whatever your intention is. So just putting that out there. So we have our stones, we have our little box, we have our fabric that I'll take out in a second, and then of course the most important part, which is our deck. So again, I really love the art. The illustrator again is Patrick Valenza. If you want to look him up, I don't know a ton about him, but that's who created this deck. So now we're going to take out this fabric and put it across the table. We'll get rid of this box for now. I'm going to scooch up a little bit. Okay. So here's a closer look at the fabric. I just think it's so pretty. It gives me like a very whimsical, almost Nightmare Before Christmas kind of vibe, where it's fun, it's a little bit spooky, but all in good fun. And I really like that. So let's lay it out. I'm gonna just put this stuff off to the side for a moment so we can put it all out on the table. I'm gonna put my stones back momentarily. Now again, I'm not an expert on stones either, but this is a clear quartz. And this is one of the stones that is said to be a good stone to clear the energy of your deck. So, without getting too deep into it right now, a lot of people say that it's good to cleanse and clear your deck. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. One of those ways is by resting a clear quartz stone, crystal, onto your deck overnight. And that's said to clear the energy of it. It's interesting. And I already have them, so I can participate. Then this is just such a pretty stone. Okay, so they're back in the bag for now. And then we have our deck and our instruction manual. Every deck comes with one, and it just tells you how to better interpret the cards, because every deck is a little bit different. Alright, so let's put this out. Just lay it on our table. Hopefully you can see it I just think it's very elegant, but yet whimsical with the shapes. The shapes, the shapes, the shapes, the shapes. Okay, so let's get our deck out here. This is sort of just the cover page of the deck, and this is what it looks like on the other side. So a fairly simple, but again, elegant design that I think goes nicely with the tablecloth. Okay, so here is our deck. Lots of cards, right? Every tarot deck has 78 cards in them. And like I said, there are a lot of different kinds of decks. The most common deck is called the Rider-Waite deck. And that came out a very long time ago. It was, as far as I know, one of the first decks to ever be put into stores. I don't know, released, put out there. It was put out there. And then slowly over time, more decks were created by different illustrators and things like that. So yes, there are lots of different decks that you can choose from, just based on how you feel about them, whatever kind of art you prefer. I personally didn't really like the Rider-Waite deck and the illustrations of it, so I went with one that piqued my interest. And I will show you some of the art in these cards. And we'll look through some of the cards more specifically. But you can see that they're just so full of color, and I don't know, they're not quite cartoonish, but there's something very special about the art. Sorry, my cat just came through. It's getting noisy. I'm sorry. Okay. So, we have our deck here on the table. We have our little baggie of stones. I have a little candle here. I'm not going to light it, but I'll put it out. I also have some essential oils, because why not? And I think that's probably all we need at the moment. I guess I'll keep the instruction guide handy. Now, I'm just going to go through and tell you guys what I know so far about tarot cards and readings, which, like I said, is limited, but that's okay. I'm learning, you're learning, or you're an expert and you can tell me more. So, every deck of cards has 78 cards in them, and they're separated by two subjects. The first is the major arcana, and the second is the minor arcana. Now, the major arcana cards symbolize something that is more long-lasting, more of a milestone. Some would say that they represent something that is of a higher power, or just generally more meaningful than the minor arcana cards, which often represent something that is fleeting or temporary or just not quite as significant as a major arcana card. And we can go through those cards soon. So, as you get ready for a reading, I touched on this briefly, but you want to make sure that your cards are cleansed or cleared, or they are stripped of energy from previous sessions or readings or what have you. And the thought behind that is just simple. It's that energy can hold on to permanent objects, and it's the same for these cards. So they say you always just want to clear your cards to make sure that you're sort of starting fresh with no residual energy. And there's a few ways you can do this. So, like I said, you have your little, you have your stones, your clear quartz. And if you wanted to, you could just rest the clear quartz on your cards. What I read said that you should let it rest overnight. But again, I think it sort of depends on the person. And how you want to do it. You know, it's your own deck. You can cleanse the energy how you want. That's my interpretation. So you can do it that way. Another common form of cleansing is to either light incense or to smudge and sage the space. Whatever you prefer. You could also light a candle. Sort of let it cleanse that way. And I've also heard that you can use like an air purifier with clean water to do it that way. And the thought behind all of this is that you want to use one of the four main elements: fire, water, air, or earth. So again, it's however you want to do it, but I've also heard that if you want to do it quickly, that you can either ring a bell throughout the different sides of the cards. I don't know why, but I guess the sound is enough to sort of like shake the energy out. It's interesting. Or if you don't want to do any of those things, you can do something as simple as knocking the energy out, like this. Sort of just swooping it away. And that's what I've read so far. I think it's all very interesting and intriguing, and I want to learn more about why this all came into fruition. So again, I'm not speaking as an expert. I'm speaking as somebody who is newly learning these things, just for the simple education of it, and I don't know, just being really interested in it. So that's what you can do as I've started to do my own readings to learn about them. I've been clearing the energy by doing the single knock and the sort of like spreading, just because I don't have sage, or I don't know. I guess I have candles, but that's what I've been doing. That's the easiest thing. So when you want to start a reading, and there's lots of different kinds of readings that you can do, and I'll talk about them, but there are a few different ways you can do this, and I'm going to share with you how I set up for a reading based on all of the little tidbits that I've gotten. So first, you sort of want to hold on to the cards to put your energy into them. This is especially important if other people are touching your cards or using your cards. You want to make sure that your energy is into them and that you're being clear about your intention. So let's just say, for the purpose of this video, I am setting the intention that I'm going to do a reading to maybe do an energy of the day. Like, I want to see what card I should focus on today and do my reading based on that. A lot of people will do protective prayers before they do a reading. Again, I think it depends on your degree of spirituality and your intention for the cards and what you want to do with them, right? So I think it depends. It can be as significant or perhaps insignificant as you want. So anyways, you put your energy into the cards and then you start to shuffle them. Now, if you'll notice, these cards are longer than traditional like cards, like poker cards. So it's a little difficult to shuffle them in that way without ruining them. So you can either sort of scatter them all out and shuffle them that way, or you can kind of cut through them like this, which is what I've been doing. It's just a little bit easier for me. I have little hands too, so this works. So basically you're going to keep cutting through them until it feels right, and that's how you know when to stop. Once you shuffle them, you're going to cut your deck 3 times into 3 separate piles with your left hand, because your left hand represents your unconscious mind, and that's why you do it. And then you recut them with that left hand. So now your deck is sort of ready, and you can either pick a card off the top, or you can fan it out and pick a card that way. And generally, that's what I'll do. I like to fan them out because it just feels like I have more of a choice, I guess. I can read all of the cards. Okay, so you fan them out. And then you sort of just scan your hand over the cards until you feel like you've picked the right one. So this is my card. I haven't flipped it over yet. Generally, you want to flip your card over from the side because if your card is upside down or reversed, it's said to have a different meaning. Some people read card reversals and some people don't. Again, it's however you want to do it. This is what I love about tarot also, is so much of it is just how you want to do it and how you interpret it and how you have your own style, which I just think is really fascinating. So anyways, I'm going to flip the card over. Okay, and we have the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Wands. Hopefully you can see the artwork. I think you can. It's very pretty. And so, for the intention, I said, this is my card of the day. This is something I want to embody or focus on for myself. So now I will put the cards, the rest of the cards, back into a pile. Nice and neat, so I can focus on this one card. And what I've learned so far about interpreting cards is that you first want to start by looking at the imagery and interpreting however you think makes the most sense and how it applies to you before you consult any kind of guidebook, because this is said to help build your intuition and your ability to sort of hone in on what you're looking at and how it applies to you. So again, we can look at this card, try to interpret it. You guys can let me know what you think this card is trying to say. But I'll start by telling you a little bit about what I know. So, there are 4 types of symbols, main symbols. I'm sure there's a more official word than symbols, but 4 symbols for these different types of cards. And they are swords, wands, pentacles, and cups. I almost lost it for a second. And these are all aligned with astrological signs, and they have different meanings to them. So what I know about a wand, funny enough, is that a wand relates to my astrological sign, which is a Sagittarius. So this wand represents fire, passion, all things relating to that. And so it's interesting, you'll see that within this card, there's one big wand made of wood, and there's fire coming out of it to represent the fire signs and to represent passion. Now, the Ace of Wands is referred to as a court card, and this falls under the minor arcana subsection that we talked about earlier. So, minor arcana meaning this is more of a fleeting, time-bound card, less significant than major arcana, which makes sense because we're just focusing on this card for the day. Now, something worth noting is that all tarot cards don't just have an association with imagery, they also have an association with numbers or numerology. And they all represent different things. So, this is the Ace of Wands. The ace would represent a 1. Now, if you get something that's a 0 or a 1, generally it means or represents that you're starting somewhere from the beginning, you're new on a journey, or you're just beginning something. And the farther along you go numerically indicates sort of where you are within this timeline, very generally speaking. Also, a lot of times you'll find that odd numbers represent sort of like this shakiness, this unbalance, whereas even numbers represent balance. That's very generally speaking based on what I found, but So it's important to think of imagery and numbers, right? So first, like I said, you would want to interpret the card based on what you know and just based on what you feel and what you think. Just off the bat, to me, this is a very positive card. It represents growth and nurturing and having a passion for these things, being a caregiver. And you can really think about that, how it applies to you, sort of take it to the next level, right? And then once you take some time to think about the card, especially if you're new like me, then you consult your little guidebook that comes with the deck of cards. So we are going to find the Ace of Wands, and we're going to read about it. Okay, let's see. Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands heralds the beginning of all that is good as she cradles new life in her arms. Her massive torch is prepared to spread its fire throughout the woods, igniting minds with creativity and passion. The meanings for this card are creativity, passionate love, birth, new life, potential, good things about to begin. So that's a really awesome card. And so that's something you can think about and take throughout your day, whether it means you want to channel those things, you want to channel creative passion or trying something new. That's a great way to think about it, right? And not everybody is using cards to sort of signify this like personal development or self-growth, but I think a lot of people do. And so that's the intention that I set, and that's the card I got, and this is the card that I'm sharing with all of you. So feel free to sort of think about these things throughout your day and try to focus on them a little bit, because they are all great attributes to possibly apply to your life or even just your day. So anyways, that is one example of a spread or just a card that you can put out. But there's lots of different types of spreads. Some of them will be just one simple card. Sometimes you'll put out 2 cards or 3 or 4 or 12, and it really goes on and on and on. There's lots of different types of spreads, and the ones that I've been specifically learning about are the past, present, future spread, which is 3 cards. One that represents your past, your present, and your future. There's also a 2-card spread that I really like, which is called Release and Receive. So one card that indicates something that you might want to let go of or invest less of in your life, sort of get rid of it, and then something you want to receive, so more positive energy that you want to take in and incorporate into your life. And then my other favorite is called the You, Me, We spread, which represents interpersonal relationships. So you representing the other person, me representing myself, and we representing us together, whether it's a friendship, a family relation, a personal relationship, however you want to look at it. And I think that can be a really cool thing to do. So I feel like that's sort of just a very top level basic intro to what I've been doing and what I've been learning about. Like I said, I'm very new to this, so take it all with a grain of salt, and also just know that a lot of it is based on your intention, what you want to know with these cards, what you want to learn from them. For me, it's learning more about myself, trying to be more intuitive and introspective about what I have going on in my life, what conflicts I'm facing, what I want to learn more about and change, and how I want to grow. But I think it can be different for everybody. So let me know if you want more videos about these cards as I learn them. I think it could be pretty cool to do different types of spreads for you guys, whether it's just a daily card, past, present, future, or some different kind of spread. Yeah, especially because it's kind of loud. My roommates are like right there and they're talking, and you can probably hear it, so I'm sorry. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you want to see next. Oh, and of course, I have to mention the obvious fact that I just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is crazy, but I'm not going to say too much about that now because I have a video that I'm going to do specifically for it, but I just had to say something. I mean, oh my gosh, it's crazy. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you liked looking at my new fabric and taking a look at some of the very beautiful cards in this deck. And the artistry. I mean, I feel like I didn't really show you much of the art in these cards, and maybe I should. I can just show you a few, just to give you an idea of what the art looks like. I'm not going to say anything about the cards just because this video has run kind of long, but I do really appreciate the art, and so I have to just show it off real quick. But we can get more into the cards another time if you'd like. So again, this is called the Deviant Moon Tarot. The illustrator is Patrick Valenza. He created this deck